Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to another presentation of Solid Sports Video Blog. This is episode 323. Today's date is March 17th, 2026. I'm Troy Westhead. Thank you so much again for joining me this morning. Got a packed show today, a lot going on in the world of sports. Glad I'm able to be with you guys for another week. Appreciate you guys. Work schedule worked out again. I think I came on last Wednesday. I usually try to come on between Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursdays. But like I said, now that I'm dealing with some things, I might could go live any day of the week long that I'm off. It don't matter. It don't have to be those 3 days. I usually like to do Thursdays because it's closer to the weekend, especially during football season. I like to do Thursdays so we could cover the Thursday night game, obviously, and then the rest of the NFL schedule. But of course, it's not football season, so NBA is really starting to push for the playoffs. So we got the NCAA tournament starting really tonight. A lot of people still say it don't really start to Thursday, but it's true because it's the first four, the first 2 days, and then Thursday is the huge tournament. Women starts tomorrow, I think. Right now they have a first four now, so I guess the 68 teams and they tournament now. So we'll talk about all that stuff. We'll talk about that. More NFL news, of course, even though it's not football season, there's still a lot of news to cover, a lot of moves. Justin Fields to the Chiefs, I get my thoughts on that specifically. Um, the NBA thinking about expanding, I touch on that. Look at the history, especially the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, the Seattle Supersonics, excuse me, of the NBA team that was in um, the NBA for pretty much my childhood. They moved, of course, it became the OKC Thunder that just won a championship this last year. So, man, we'll touch on some baseball, of course. We'll get that out the way first. Appreciate you guys, man. We at 478. We actually went down. I got the 479, but I guess I lost somebody, so now I'm at 478. We always pick up a few subscribers every week, of course. 500 is the first bar we got to reach, which we're closer to that. Um, then I think some other things will start opening up then. So I can't wait for that. But I appreciate you guys' support, your patience. Um, I know, April we're gonna have a lot of content because something coming up in April, so I'm gonna be a little bit more free. So we'll be doing more blogs, more gaming. That's what I've been slacking on my gaming content. I've been playing Marathon. That game's kind of fun. I put up a video of that yesterday, so y'all can go check all that out. But appreciate you guys again for joining me this morning. Appreciate it. Let's start with baseball. The MLB, man. World Baseball Classic. I always like the World Baseball Classic. I think it's like, I think they had baseball in the Summer Olympics anyway, but this is more intense. Obviously, we got the final. The U.S. men made it again, so we're in the final. We'll go against Venezuela tomorrow. Shout out to Italy though. Italy surprised a lot of people, but they lost last night to Venezuela. The DR was a tough game for the U.S. men. I know the controversial last strike people been talking about, but the U.S. men got it done. They better had because, like I said, they almost squandered the opportunity when they thought they already had clinched and lost to Italy. So other than that, they'd have been defeated going into tonight. I mean, Venezuela is a tough team, but I still see the U.S. men winning this game. Let me see. Did they announce the starting pitchers yet? I'm about to check that out. I know um, some MLB teams are starting to say, well, our players, we want our players to be ready because I think the regular season starts next Friday or next Thursday. Not this week, but the following Thursday. Um, so, Ronald Acuna Jr. is on this team. Um, he's one of my favorite players because I'm a Braves fan. So, I want to see how this game goes tonight. I'm very interested in it. Um, Thank you, Skip. Thank you for coming through, bro. How you doing this morning? Hope you're doing well. Appreciate it. Definitely like to interact with you guys. I'm trying to pull up. Yeah, see, I messed up here. Let me see. Trying to pull up tonight's game, but yeah. I think the U.S. men to get it done. I gotta guess. I'm just gonna guess off the top of my head. I wonder if Paul Skinks is starting for the U.S. tonight. Um, but I'm about to check that out now. Uh, Appreciate it, man. I'm glad you're doing well, man. Well, I'm on the East Coast. I don't know where you are, but yeah, it's 10 in the morning where I am. No, Nolan McLean is starting for the U.S. men tonight. Game start at 7 o'clock. Okay, I mean 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Okay, all right, but it's gonna be a tough game. It's gonna be a tough game, man. Baseball, if you're a baseball fan, especially in the one game, anything can happen in one game. Definitely in baseball. So your bats just not might be on, or your pitcher might be a little off. So that can happen to anybody, no matter how good you are. So, but I think the U.S. better get this done, finish it off when they win back to back World Baseball Classic championships. So. Burt Rivers, what's up, man? What's up, man? Thank you for being here this morning. But that's all I wanted to talk about with that. Check it out if you a baseball fan. You'll see a lot of, especially on the U.S. side, you see a lot of um, notable major leaguers. Um, and Venezuela got some too. Like I said, Ronald Acuña Jr. I think is on this team. There's a couple of major league players on that team as well. The Dominican Republic is deep as well. That's why I said it was either I thought Japan. I thought even though the DR beat Japan with Tony. I thought they would get a little further. But yeah, Japan. You knew it was gonna be Japan, U.S. I ain't really thinking much about Venezuela because they're not as deep as the DR. But those three teams, U.S., DR, Japan, I figured it'd be one of those three to win it. So the U.S. is there. We'll see if they can get it done and finish it off. Um, Other baseball I want to talk about just because the season's about to start. Let's start the National League Central. I always like to touch on divisions. Um, this division to me it seems wide open, but shout out to Milwaukee Brewers. They seem like they always somehow win this division every season. Um, Let me pull that up. Uh, yeah, they've been at the top. I think the Cubs. I know the Cubs got to the playoffs, but who won the division last year? I think it was Milwaukee again. Um, but yeah, this division to me, a lot of these teams. Like I say Milwaukee, the Cubs, Cincinnati. Yeah, I think they made the playoffs too. I think they made it as a wild card. I think they got in the back door. Pittsburgh, we'll see. Speaking of Paul Skinks, um, he's seems like he's being wasted there. Pirates got to get something together because they can win if they put a good team together. St. Louis Cardinals also, I think they took a step back. I had a lot of respect. I know they traded Paul Goldschmidt. Um, I think they got rid of Arnado. I think they traded him as well. So that did work out. I thought the Cardinals would be the perennial team in this division when they had both of those guys on each corner, Goldsmith at first and Arenado at third base. I thought they would be the base of their lineup, and then the other players they had around. So I think they underachieved during that window. So I guess they figured might as well move on and try to build. Um, but yeah, it's going to probably be Milwaukee or Chicago again in this division. Cubs made a couple of moves to get stronger as well. I like the Reds. I like Ellie De La Cruz. Of course, he's the um, young star for the Reds. So uh, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Um, so I like this division. This division. I mean, but I think those three teams are definitely got a chance to win it. I think Pittsburgh and St. Louis. I think they're a step below. So I'd be shocked if any of those two teams wind up doing it. But baseball, you just never know. Sometimes a team kind of nowhere have a good year, and then they go back to what they were. Um, so this is the division to watch out for. Also, the AL Central, pretty similar. Um, uh, Minnesota, Detroit. Like this is the White Sox. They started to get a little better, but They've been off the rails the last couple of years. The Guardians, what was that pitcher? One of the pitchers got popped for gambling scandal, so I think he faced a jail time and everything. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, Detroit tired Scooble, so we'll see what happens with him. He was supposed to be in the World Baseball Classic. He only pitched in one game and really didn't pitch anymore. He's due for a contract, so we'll see how that situation works out this year for the Tigers. Kansas City young. Kansas City Royals, they real young, but they made some strides in the last few years. Minnesota Twins been the most disappointed team, got the most veteran team, but just can't get over the hump. So we'll see who rises to the top. I've got a feeling about the Tigers this year. I think the Tigers will probably be the class of this division, but the Royals, the Twins, the Guardians, Jose at third, still got a chance to win this division. So those two divisions to me is like, uh, you know, it's sort of wide open in a way, but you'll still be surprised if certain teams will win those divisions. So if I come on next week, I'll do the two West divisions and get my just what I think could probably be static at the end. Like I said, I've been saying it every time I've been on. The Dodgers, until somebody beat the Dodgers, um, I don't really see anybody else winning this thing. As long as the Dodgers stay healthy, I don't see nobody really beating them. In the American League, of course, everybody Yankees is always the safer choice, but they pitching been struggling over the last few years. But that whole division, like I said, we talked about, is very, very deep. Boston came back last year. I think my Orioles, yes, they my Orioles. I'm in Baltimore, so I still root for the Orioles as well. Um, Watch out for them. The Blue Jays was just in the World Series last year, and the Rays are nothing to sneeze at either. So um, anybody to that division can pretty much rise. The West, Seattle, um, you know, the Houston Astros are still around. We just talked about the Central. You don't really fully believe in any of those teams to go that far, but yeah, the American League I think is more wide open than that. National League is pretty much the Dodgers, um, the Phillies in the East. I throw my Braves in there. You know, the Padres are strong, but then after that, you just don't know what you'll get from everybody else. So that's my opinion on it, but I'll give my deeper opinion hopefully next week if I come on. So, all right, let's pivot to the NBA. First of all, let's look at um, last night's score. Some of these, it was some decent games last night. Spurs keep rolling. The Hawks won last night. I think the Hawks on a 10-game winning streak. They still celebrated the Magic City. Then the NBA tried to shut that down. But I never been to Atlanta, but I heard how Atlanta gets down, and they didn't disappoint. The fans still came in there um, celebrating the club Magic City. Ti still performed at halftime, so it was pretty much an ATL night, and they won the game. So they're gonna be a dangerous team because I think them getting Kaminga. Depending on who they get, if they get out the play in, um, whoever's the 1 or 2 seeds will have a problem with the Hawks. I think the Hawks might win a game or two in that series. I'm not saying they're gonna win it, but let's just say like Detroit, a little inexperienced. I think Atlanta can catch them slipping a little bit. I think Detroit is still win that series if you ask me today, but I think Atlanta will push them a little bit. Now, if it's Boston, even Boston, I think at the ones the Knicks too because they got flaws. So I think the Hawks, if they make it out the play in, will give that 1 or 2 seed, no matter who it is, a game or two. I really believe that. So the Hawks are rolling. So can't wait to the play. I love the NBA playoffs. I can't wait to the playoffs. It seems like once March come around, it kind of drags out. But once you know the tournament's over, you know it'll be NBA playoff time. So um, Like I said, Spurs won again. Wembyama did what he normally does, 21-13. Um, Clippers also a dangerous team. If Kawhi stay healthy, but we'll see if they able to get out the play in. Um, Lakers over the Rockets. Um, I'm gonna talk about, I always talk about every team a little bit when we look at the standings, but the Rockets started to concern me about how they scoring. Like every time I see a Rocket score, it's always high 90s, um, low hundreds. Which today in the NBA, you probably want to be at least around 110. Um, so that concerns me. Kevin Durant, like I said, I think especially when playoffs come around, he's going to have to. They're going to have to average over 30 a game if the Rockets is going to, let alone get out the first round. Really compete for a championship. He will have to average 30 a game in the playoffs if the Rockets going to go far. But we'll talk about that a little bit. Lakers, despite all the problems, the Lakers are overhyped, just like the Cowboys. No matter how big or small the problem is, it gets overhyped. Lakers are what? Still third in the West, and now they got a game and a half lead over Houston for that. So they, for this time of year, they strongly in that third spot, despite everything everybody been saying. Yeah, they're not on San Antonio and OKC level, but any other Western Conference team, you gotta say they just as good as, or if not better. So, and Luka is quietly having an MVP season. LeBron doing what he can, but you could tell LeBron is past his prime for sure. Um, Even though he's been injured off and on, but he just don't look the same every time I see LeBron. Um, I think it's hard for him to keep. I don't know if it's hard for him to keep weight off or if he want to be that size, but he looks like he just gaining weight to me. Like if I just look at his body, pause, but he just looked like a bigger guy. He just barely moving around, but still doing what he's doing, which is still remarkable at the age of what he's. I'm 42, so he's 41. Um, so yeah, so that's just crazy. But right now they're third. Them beating Houston outright last night. They gave the game on them, so Denver got issues injury wise, but they're going to be a problem as well. But we're going to look at the East first because I just brought up the Hawks. They eighth in the East. Detroit right now won um, with 48 wins. They slowed down a little bit. They had a big lead. Now Boston 3.5 back. Like I said, I don't think the Celtics care where they're seated. I think in a 7-game series they're going to feel confident against anybody. Knicks the same way. They overhyped the Knicks and they over panic about the Knicks as well in the media. But they third, and same, similar to the Lakers. They got clear issues, but they capable of winning a series. Cavaliers, I think this year only why it feels a little different because of James Harden, um, and just because I think everybody that was that believed in them, I guess they sort of hesitant now because the last 2 seasons they was real strong and didn't get it done. So, but I think fourth is a decent spot for them. I think they wouldn't mind playing in Detroit because they will actually have the more experience if they got to play them in the second round. So, um, the Magic been playing well as well lately. I'm happy about it because, like I said, I want to be right. I picked them to come out the East. Um, but like I said, they too inconsistent scoring wise as well. Um, Raptors quietly in that sixth spot, but don't nobody bring up the Toronto Raptors. Unfortunately, people bring up teams below them that could do something, which I don't understand. But they six and they had a strong season. Miami starting to turn it on. Um, did I talk about the Bam thing last week? I think I did because I think it happened about a week ago. Um, like I said, about that, just to touch on it. The Heat is seventh in the East, by the way. Like I said, today's NBA is different. Just like with everything in life, everything evolves. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it was some people was upset because he passed. I think it was directly because he passed Kobe. I think it was also just how he got it because it was like everybody sort of, even the Wizards sort of, just gave in to him getting it. I think that's what that rubbed the people that were like the really older, I don't want to say just old people, but the older, old school guys didn't like that part of it. I don't think it was about Kobe. I think it was about Kobe for some people, him passing Kobe Bryant. But that definitely don't take Kobe Bryant greatness away. We know that Bam ain't better than Kobe. So that's why I didn't really trip about that. I think one thing I said, like, well, I didn't think this was going to happen. Well, Bam, it's just because Bam is not a scorer. I think that's what's weird about it. But just imagine a scorer really. If somebody, like I said, if somebody really want to do it, it can be done. Obviously, it can be done. So, but I think you, like you said, you gotta get off to a hot start. You probably got to do like Bam because Bam in that first quarter scored 31 points, and it wasn't a lot of free throws. He was just hot. If somebody a good scorer do that, um, now that they say Bam do it, I think somebody's going to go for it. I don't know if it's going to happen the rest of this season. The season's almost over, but it's going to happen soon. The next couple of years, I think somebody going to at least get the 90. Um, I think somebody going to get the 90, and might even challenge the 100. What Will did. So I'm not shocked at all. Uh, Philadelphia 76ers, still dealing with. I think Paul George should be about to come back soon. I think it's 25 games almost up his suspension. And then Joel Embiid still not healthy. Um, it's hard for me. I think they'd be, like I said, if they get out the play in, they could be a problem also in the playoffs if they healthy. But we'll see if they get out the play in. Charlotte Hornets, nice story as well. Like I said, they really a couple of years. I thought they would. I think they will get better from here, but I thought last year they was going to make this jump. At least be a little bit competitive than they is this year. So Milwaukee, 11 under 500. Like I said, I don't think they even trying. Bulls either, but they still not eliminated. Now officially eliminated: Brooklyn Nets, Washington Wizards, Indiana Pacers. Pacers, of course, with Halliburton, they was sort of taking a step back this year anyway. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I thought they would be like playing type, between 7 and 10. I didn't think they was going to be the worst team in the East. Like I would have guessed that at all. Um, but they are this year. So that's the Eastern Conference. West, like I said, we mentioned OKC is okay. I started to think they're gonna hold on to that one seed. I think they start the SGA. I think they starting to get a rhythm again. I like the Spurs. I know playoff wise, a lot of people not sure about the Spurs because they're young. But like I said, they got guards in this league, and they got a nice big. So if you got that, I don't care about the experience. I don't care that they haven't been here before. Um, I feel like they could challenge anybody um, in the Western Conference. That was a good win against the Clippers because I think the Clippers blew them out the last time. So they get that out their mind. The Clippers could potentially be their first round matchup. Um, we said the Lakers were third. Like I said, they just need to stop the noise with the Lakers. It's the media, but they need to stop um, overhyping the Lakers one way or the other, bad or good. They need to just stop it. Um, but as a fan, you just gotta learn not to listen to it. That's all. Just don't listen to it. So, um, Denver, like I said, I said about the Nuggets, they fifth. Houston is fourth. Like I said, I'm really concerned about the Rockets. Um, how consistently can they score? And in the playoffs, that's what hurt them last year against the Warriors. Um, Even though, like I said, the Rockets was the Spurs last year was not a lot of experience as a team. Even though Durant has been there. Um, well, the Durant wasn't there last year. I'm sorry. Who they had last year of significance? Well, no, they did. They just had their young core, and they got all the way to the second seed. But a lot of people wasn't surprised that they lost to the Warriors in that first round. And the Warriors, they had a healthy Jimmy, so a lot of people, it was sort of mixed. People thought Houston would still win that series, um, but the Rat was supposed to be the player to get over the hump, and it still can happen. But I just think he's going to have uh, he's going, like I said, he's going to average 30 or more. I really I'm not being over exaggerated about that. I think the Rat, if you don't average over 30 in the playoffs, I think they could potentially be one and done, especially if they stay in that 4 spot, 5 spot. If they don't move up to like 3 and get I don't think they can manage with that because you could get Minnesota, um, unless luckily Phoenix comes up to 6. Um, but nah, I don't really feel good about the Rockets going into the postseason at all. Um, Sengun, he started off the season well. I think he's been struggling a little bit to score. And Durant, um, he gave you to, but he can easily score 20 a game. It's no problem with his scoring. It seems like it's just not at the right times, I guess. I seen a few Rockets games this year, but it was when they was rolling. Defensively, yeah, defensively they can, they long, they can cause problems on the defensive side, but can they score enough? I think that's the question. If you're a Rockets fan, and like I said, Durant, um, this is his moment. He's gonna have to. I don't want to say carry him because defensively Houston is good enough, but offensively they're gonna need 30 a game in the playoffs. Or I don't see Houston going far at all. Um, Denver Nuggets, like I said, Nuggets, the championship DNA with the Joker. But like I said, they're not healthy, so that's the issue right now. Um, Jamal Murray, well, Jamal Murray's been Jamal Murray. He's always been sort of a streaky guy, but he's usually turns it up in the playoffs. So Denver's going to be dangerous no matter where they land. Minnesota Timberwolves, I've been saying this all season long. I've been saying this since last year. I just think they got a ceiling. I know they've been to the Western Conference Finals, so of course if they got that far, they can make it to the finals. But I just think eventually, sort of like I feel about Houston, who's going to score other than Anthony Edwards? Um, Even though I think Minnesota's problem is deeper than Houston, I think Sengun is a viable second option. Minnesota, who is really a viable. I mean, Julius Randle can be that guy, but it seems like when you really need him to do it, he can't. So if he can, then Minnesota has a chance. They good defensively as well. Um, and that man, like I said, I feel the same thing about the Red. I think he got an average close to 30 a game for Minnesota, which he's capable of doing for Minnesota to get far. But they've done it the last 2 years. Um, I think at max they could get to the Western Conference Finals, but I don't. I think somebody, OKC, San Antonio, or even somebody else could still knock them out again um, if they can't score consistently. Phoenix Suns, like I said, great season for the Suns. They seventh. You thought they would fall off. They pretty much cleaned house, other than Devin Booker. But they got a nice, solid team. I seen them play about once or twice this year. They role players really, which was the issue. They didn't have a lot of role players, but now that they traded Bill and Durant away, they got a lot of role players around Devin Booker. They're a decent team. Clippers right at 500, but like I said, they better than their record says they are. If Kawhi stay healthy, that's pretty much the only question. Um, they could be a pest in the first round, but I don't think they'd beat the Spurs or the Thunder in a 7-game series. Um, and they not gonna. I don't think they're gonna get the 6. I think they too far back for that. Well, Golden State Warriors holding on to their life. Um, the Steph now been out for a while. I think he's out for close to another week, or you think he come back later this week, possibly. Um, but I got my brother. He's a Warriors fan. I told him pretty much uh, they maximize they limit. They got 5 championships. I mean 4, excuse me, with the in the career. I think I'd be surprised if they win another one or get close to another one. Um, but I think, like I said, I think they handled. I think Steve Kerr handled Kuminga wrong. I said that on record. I think they should have let that man. That man can play. They should have. They needed him, especially last year when Jimmy went down. I didn't understand. They needed him. They need him this year. Um, but that's why I think it's just him and Kerr didn't get along. I mean, that's either the obvious thing or something deeper than that. Um, Curry, what did he say? I think it was I might have touched on this when he said in the media that he's a baby, basically old veteran players with championships, which is on the face value that's true. But look what the Thunder did last year. They was the youngest team, or one of the youngest teams to win it in years. Um, and really, it's not. I mean, it's veterans like, but the veterans you probably mean LeBron and Durant. But when the last time they won a championship? Like the old veterans are way past old. Um, the veterans now are like Giannis. But look what's going on with him. Um, so yeah, I mean, he was telling the truth, but at the same time, I just think they just did something. They ain't see something eye to eye or something. Um, because even if you got a veteran in front of you, if you better than that veteran, you gonna get player time in the NBA. You're gonna play. Um, so if that's really the case, then I think Kurt still messed. Either way, he messed up with that with Kaminga. So now the Warriors are suffering for that. They still make the play in because really the Blazers are 10th. They both with 33 wins. Everybody else don't even have 25 wins. So only team officially eliminated is the Kings, but and probably by next week, um, probably much everybody else, Memphis, New Orleans, Dallas, Utah, they all be eliminated. So you pretty much got your 10 teams in the East. Like I said, in the West. In the East, like I said, I don't think the Bucks and the Bulls are even trying to make the play in. I think they want to be in the lottery. So you got your teams ready for the playoffs. It's just going to depend on seeding and matchups, which it always does. So, so that's pretty much the NBA talk. I didn't talk much about the Blazers, but um, they overachieved to be this year as well, especially with the Chauncey Billups scandal and the Coach Billups scandal in the beginning of the season. They didn't just tank and fall off. They really fought hard this season. It will be a play-in team. So, but if it stays like the way it is, I think it'd be the chalk. I think it'd be Phoenix and the Clippers going to the playoffs. The Warriors and the Blazers falling short, but we'll see because Phoenix probably really still have a chance to get out and drop either Minnesota or Denver down to that play-in, or even Houston because they all got 41 wins. Lakers with 43 wins. So now that the season is close to ending, 2 games is a lot. 2 games in the win column is huge. So Lakers got an advantage there. Um, and like I said, the East, the 10 teams are going to be the 10 teams. I don't see Milwaukee or Chicago creeping up and taking any of those spots. And at the bottom of that, like I said, I really started to like the Hawks, what they doing. The Heat always going to be an issue. So, um, and it's real tight between 5 and 9 is real tight because it's Orlando, Toronto, and Miami. They all got 38 wins. Then Atlanta and Philly got 37 wins. Charlotte probably going to wind up being 10th, most likely, but all that can flip around. And then Boston and the Knicks at 2 and 3, they can flip. Cleveland is sort of a strong four. They 2.5 up on Orlando for that, but they 2.5 back for third. So and then Detroit 3.5 up on Boston. So that possibly could change, but it's like I said, it's as the game. I think it's only what I say at minimum at max, and this stuff time I probably like 12 to 15 games left for most teams. So it's not a lot of games left. So like I said, being 2 back now, it's a little bit more pressurized than it would be if this was February still or January still. So yeah. All right, just one more thing I want to touch on with the NBA, the expansion, and then we'll talk about some NFL, and then we'll touch on the NCAA tournament. Um, yeah, the NBA they're going to have a vote to expand. They're going to add 2 more teams. The two cities already been chosen, Las Vegas and Seattle. Of course, Seattle had a team for a long time, the Seattle Supersonics. Great history. Um, I watched them in the '90s. They was a perennial contender in the '90s, even though they never got over the hump. The Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, that Flush Shrimp team with George Karl, um, that Seattle team. They got to the finals once. Of course, the Bulls dismantled them um, during the second George repeat. The first one that they beat Utah back to back to win three in a row again. But they beat the Sonics in that first championship. I think that was that the 72 and 10 season? I think when they played Seattle, I believe so. I think that was the season they got to the finals and played Seattle when they won 72 and 10 season. So, but the Sonics, like I said, it was sometimes it happens. Sometimes, well, since I've been alive, teams just happen to move because um, ownership, or I think with the Sonics, it was the key arena at the time. I think it was some type of lease issue, and he wound up moving them to OKC. Um, but a lot of people believe Seattle should have never lost a team. So, and I'd be shocked if they did. Really, I think they'd be the Seattle SuperSonics again. But I think they would. I wonder what they do. What they did with. I think they did it with the Hornets. Basically, when they moved to New Orleans and changed the name, they kept the history. They were Charlotte got their team back. First they was the Bobcats, but then once it became the Hornets, I think they gave them their history back. I wonder would they be like that with the which would be easy if they do it like that. Give them their history because they don't have a long history of winning championships. So that's why I think it was easy for Charlotte to do it. So I think that's what would happen with that. Um, but yeah, those Celtics teams was fun to watch back in the '90s. Um, just could never get over the hump though. In Vegas, of course, that's coming now. Baseball's there, well, it's coming there. So the NBA had to get into that pot. So that's an obvious one. But now, I guess the other question is going to be, which I heard experts talk about it, is who's going to move to the East? Um, um, because those both of those teams are going to be in the West. They already announced that, so I think Memphis is the obvious choice, but somebody said they might try to fight it, which I don't see why they would, because I think the East is a little bit easier. It just always is for some reason, so they can maybe get back into winning ways quicker. Um, Minnesota was another team they threw out there, or New Orleans. I think they're the three obvious ones. Uh, yeah, because I think really you could. I mean, OKC, even though they probably don't, not going to move OKC from the West to the East. But just thinking about it in uh, a location standpoint, they could be an Eastern Conference team. So um, yeah. I think it's probably. I mean, I think it'd be easier for Memphis to just move Memphis to the East. Um, like I said, I think that's to me that makes the most sense. But if it's New Orleans or Minnesota, I'm sure they won't mind either. So and then I think it's some type of money issue, but they said that's not going to really be an issue. It sounds like it's going to be, but it's not. But people always going to complain about money. So um, yeah, so we have to see about that. But I just think that's interesting. So then now it'll be, if this happens, I mean, it's going to be a vote. I think 23 of the 30 owners have to vote on it. But it seems like it's highly, like basically it's almost set in stone that this is going to happen. If so, like I said, there'd be 32 teams in the league now, just like the NFL. I think the MLB still have 30, because there's 5 teams in each division, 5, 10, 15. Yeah, so the MLB still have 30 teams. Um, but they've been talking about expansion with them as well. So, uh, it's the way of the world. Where, like I said about evolving. So, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to see 2 new teams in the league. They'll be ready to play at 2028, which is to be kind of quickly 2 years from now. So that's why I think also that this is going to happen. That they expect them to be ready by 2028. So Vegas, I think they already got a stadium they can start at for basketball. I think Seattle, I guess the Key Arena or wherever that arena is, I think it never got tore down. So you know, so I think both teams will be ready as far as location wise. So we'll see if this happens, but I think it's going to happen. More money for everybody. I know speaking of Steve Kerr, he was talking about lowering the gauge during the season, which I don't agree with. I think it should stay at 82. So if they had more teams, of course, the owners ain't gonna want to. I don't think that's gonna happen. Basically, what I'm saying, I don't think they're gonna shorten the season. Um, I don't really think that's gonna happen. So uh, we'll see. But I'm kind of excited about it. Something new, some two new teams. It'll be more parity in the league as it's been the last couple of years. Haven't had a back-to-back champion in a while, so I think that'll enhance that. It'll be a special draft, which will be fun. Who will be available for the special draft? So I think a team got to put up a certain amount of players. So that's going to be really, really fun. And then, the young players you're going to see this weekend will be already in the league. Um, we'll see. Even though 2 years is not a long time, but it's long enough for maybe a star we don't even know about emerges and come set the league on fire. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to happen. I know they still got to vote on it, but most likely this is going to go down. So we'll see with that. So, all right. So let's move on to the NFL. The NFL still makes news during the off season. Is anybody into the USFL? I watch here and there, but it's not the NFL. I mean, if you just want scratch a football itch, it's good to watch, but don't put it on the same level as the NFL. I know everybody excited to watch to see the 4-point field goals, which would be 60 yards or more, would be 4 points instead of 3. I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays throughout the season. Let me see. Let's pull up my NFL page here now. Now things have calmed down. Free agency in the NFL usually is quick because, first of all, OTAs is what? Right after the draft. So you kind of want to know what your roster is like before the draft also, so you can fill out your team even more. Like I said, you don't see a lot of trades in the NFL during the season. You usually see them, in the off season, or once before free agency, like you saw this year. But the biggest news lately, last week, of course, we had Kyler Murray to the Vikings, which I touched on in a short. I'll talk a little bit about it now. Like I said, I like Kyler Murray. I know a lot of people, some people, which which I understand, a wait and see more type thing. Some people put it in stone. I ain't gonna put it in stone, but I think he can definitely have a great season if he stay healthy. First of all, he's been injured the last couple of years. And Minnesota got to protect him. They got to give him a good offensive line. You got the playmakers in Jefferson and what's that receiver? Jordan Addison, Hawkinson at tight end. You got a lot of playmakers on the outside. Aaron Jones, like I said, I really like Aaron Jones. I think Green Bay still made a mistake, even though Jacobs had a good season with the Packers last year. But I think Aaron Jones just fitted in with the Packers more to me. So you got the offense. Defensively, you can't name a lot of players, but Robert Flores go ahead that defense right. So Minnesota could definitely jump right back into the contender race if Murray plays what he's capable of playing. And they still won 9 games last year, which when you say it, the more I hear people saying that, I can believe like, damn, they won 9 games. But they still was last in their division because you had Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago in the division. And like I said, that division is still a little wide open. I like the Bears. I think the Bears are going in the right direction. Shout out to my man Caper. Um, I haven't seen him in a while, so hopefully I see him in hopefully he pop up and comment or something. But he's a Chicago fan. And the Bears had a great season. I think Caleb Williams will get better. I think his completion percentage is going to get better. He was under 60 and still had the season that he had. I think that's going to improve. I think the DJ Moore thing, I think they might try to address that in the draft, get some other receivers. But um, yeah, they had some other guys there, but I think DJ Moore was a key piece to that Bay offense. I want to see it without him. Um, they just got to get better defensively, but like I said, they got flaws. Um, Packers, like I said, I brought up the Packers. A lot of experts, putting them in the Super Bowl and all. I was like, no. Still think they need to grow a little bit more. Um, they're a very young team as well now. Same with the NBA. I mean, yeah, probably could win with young players, but you usually don't in the NFL either. You usually don't win with. I mean, you might win with a young quarterback, maybe, but as far as the quarter team, usually not a young team. So I always thought the Packers would need a few more years. Maybe this would be the year. We'll see what they add. Michael Parsons would be healthy. We'll see what they do next year. The Lions, to me, I think either this year or next year they got to do it. If they don't, um, you see they already let Montgomery go. They did get uh, Pacheco from Kansas City. But you can tell that they starting to fall apart a little bit. We'll see if Jared Goff can continue to do what he's done. Um, so the Vikings got a chance to do something in that division. So watch my short if you want more on that. But I really think this is a good move. You get them at a veterans minimum as well. Um, I don't. Well, I think it's sort of a competition. I think they're going to really give JJ McCarthy a chance, but I really don't see how he wins the starting job over Kyler. But we'll see. Because if he wins the job, and then I mean, then yeah, you got to start looking at Kyler like, dang man, like you could beat out JJ McCarthy. You should beat out JJ McCarthy for that job. If he don't, then even during the season, even if McCarthy struggles, I don't see how you could they go back to Kyler at all. I mean, I don't think that. I think the fans, some fans might be like, still, JJ sucks, put Kyler in. Um, but I think if you do make that move, I think you got to stick with it. So that's gonna be interesting. You know, if especially if Kyler don't start. If Kyler don't start, it's going to be very interesting in Minnesota if JJ McCarthy's the starter to start the season. Because I don't really think you could bench him, honestly, if he struggles. Now, if he get hurt, he is hurt. But if he struggles, I don't think you could go to Kyler at that point. And if you do, then you basically admitting you made a mistake with JJ. So, which they already sort of is by bringing in Kyler. So that's gonna be an interesting dynamic. Uh, I said it at the top of the show. Justin Fields traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, for a fifth round pick. Um, I like Justin Fields. I think the Chicago situation was rough, and then the Jets. You really much can't put anything into anybody that plays for the Jets. You just can't. You see what Sam Darnold's doing. You see what other quarterbacks have done once they left the Jets. The Jets is just for some reason just a bad quarterback situation. So, but we'll see. I think this is good for him. Of course, he's going to be behind Mahomes. But there's no other quarterbacks really behind him. So Mahomes might not be ready for the season. So he might, he's going to get a lot of work. Andy Reid, you know what he does offensively with players, with lesser quarterbacks with lesser talent, put it that way. What he did in Philadelphia for sure. What he did with Alex Smith, Alex Smith is a decent quarterback. So I think this is good for Justin Fields just to get better at minimum. Even though he might not play, maybe stay a year here. Maybe have a good preseason, and then some teams might call. Maybe they might flip him and he get traded again to another situation. So I think this is good for him overall. To go there, he can learn, get better. So I like this move. And also, like I said, if Mahomes not ready for the season, you got an opportunity um, to really get yourself back in the, back out there. So I like this move for both the Chiefs and Fields. So we'll see how uh, how that goes. Uh, Pretty much other news. The Niners are still adding. Of course, they added Mike Evans last week, which is a huge move. I think if he stay healthy, then they get Christian Kirk, another wide receiver. So the Niners trying to really go for it next year. At least that's what it seems like. I like Christian Kirk. He's a decent receiver. Definitely a compliment number two, number three receiver. So the Niners, not as far as offensively, they definitely trying to add to help out Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. The brilliant offensive mind he is. So um, now he have another player to play with. So like I said, that division gonna be tough too. The West with the Rams, Seattle, of course, the defending champion. They lost a couple of pieces, but I still think they ain't lose much. Even though Kenneth Walker to me is a big loss, but overall they still there. And then you got uh, the Rams with Stafford, that veteran team. So they they're going to be something next year. So um, yeah, so that's going to be tough. Uh, a tough division as well. Of course, the Cardinals just got rid of Kyler, so they sort of taking a step back. Um, so we'll see. Um, Also, other news: Darius Slay retired. Um, like I said, with NFL players to retire, especially if they're over 30, it's not a surprise anymore. Um, he he been bouncing around a lot, the last couple of years. Definitely on the tail end of his career. I always say congratulations because especially if you get to go, sort of retire on your own, your own way you want to retire. Um, uh, like I said, not a real surprise, but it just sort of came out of left field. But he said he's going to start his new journey, whatever that means. So good luck to him. He was a great player at his height, especially when he was with Philadelphia. So Darius Slay retired. So that was pretty much all the NFL news. Um, so yeah, so appreciate you guys so much for being here again for another show. About to wrap it up in a little bit. But we're gonna talk about the NCAA tournament. We're gonna talk about the women's and the men's tournament right now. Of course, that starts. Really, it starts tonight. I'm gonna say it starts tonight. This is part of the tournament. The first four is part of the tournament. So, got the first four tonight. UMBC, of course, is close to where I live, and Howard they play, and then you got Texas and NC State. Of course, the winners will move on to the bigger tournament. Then Wednesday, Prairie View against Lehigh. The 16 against 16, and then Miami, Ohio, and SMU is the other game, and that's the first four. Um, let's look at the bracket. The bracket is always easier to look at. And then we go look at the women's bracket as well. The women's is very, very interesting. So, I don't know. I mean, I probably should have Googled. I probably should have researched this first, but I don't know who's um, the overall number one seed. I think it's one of the ones that have one of the 16s that have to play to get in. I believe that's usually the case. Um, but Duke a one seed. Probably already know this already. Florida, they don't have opponents. I don't know if they are number one overall. Um, Arizona, they got Law Island. They are one seed, and Michigan. It might be Michigan. Michigan, they got the less losses out of everybody. Um, but Duke beat them head to head. So, but they don't have an opponent either. So it's probably either Michigan or Florida. One of those two is the number one overall. If I had to guess, I would say Michigan. They probably had a little bit of a harder schedule than Florida did. So if it's between those two, I would say it's Michigan. But I admit I don't really watch a lot of college basketball like I used to. Um, So I sort of get into it like right around this time of year. I know some about some of the players. Um, of course, you know the coaches are the coaches. The coaches are more the star than the players sometimes. But uh, I don't know. But something I didn't like Duke growing up. I hated Duke. I was a Maryland basketball fan also. I just couldn't stand Duke. It was always in the way. So, but um, I have seen enough of them this year. I really think I like Duke to win it all this year. Karen Boozer is unbelievable. Um, they got a deeper team. But watch out, Michigan is not nothing to sneeze at. I like Florida. Florida is my team. I grew up watching Florida as well. As far as a college team, period, that was my team. Um, I like what they did. I think they got better and better as the season went on. So, so what I'm at, yeah, so I'm gonna go. All right, I'm gonna go Duke out the East to be in the Final Four. West. Hmm. I'm gonna go Arizona because I'm looking at their bracket. I don't see anybody beating Arizona. Um, I like Gonzaga's three. I always read for Gonzaga because they've been so good for so long, and they sort of a mid-major school, even though they sort of a major now. Midwest. Let's see. Oh, dang, I skipped them all already. Uh, yeah, I guess I did. All right, so I said East. Okay, I got Duke East. South, yeah, I'm gonna go with Florida. Okay, yeah, two number ones. So I know that's not Arizona in the West. I think somebody gonna beat Michigan though, but I'm just trying to disseminate because Michigan sometimes it's hard for them to score. You know what? I'm gonna go with. I'll go with Iowa State. I think Iowa State would beat Michigan if they play. So that's my Final Four. But like I said, I don't watch college basketball that much, so I probably could be completely wrong about that. Let's look at the women's side. UConn is still UConn. So before we even get into their bracket, I would pick them to win it. Um, I think South Carolina also been a perennial. But yeah, I'm gonna go with UConn to win the whole thing for the women's side. Yeah, South Carolina be there again. I heard a lot about UCLA. They're number one seed as well. Texas is the other number one. Um, yeah, so uh, but yeah, I'll go UConn on the women's side. So I say Duke and UConn to be your champions this year in college basketball. Um, appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate you guys being here. That's pretty much all I got for today. Almost did an hour. I didn't think I was going to be on there that long, but we did have a lot to cover today. Um, I gotta see what my schedule look like next week. It might come on next week. I announce it. It should be whatever day it is. I always try, like I say, I always try to do it later in the week. I could have did a Thursday show, but it's just so much happened. Since last week, I say I'll do it Tuesday again. But if I can do it like Thursday, that's gonna be my target day. Next Thursday, which would be the 26th, because the day the 17th. Yeah, so that'll be the 26th of next week. I think that's when baseball season starts. So that'll be a perfect day to do it. We can look at preview the baseball season and look at other news around the world of the sports. So thanks, Skip, for coming through. Brett Rivers, thank you guys for commenting. I thank you guys so much. I like this new feature. I don't mind being on camera. I've been on camera. You can look at all the rest of my shows. I've been on camera, but now I don't know if it's because I got more subscribers that I'll get more features or something YouTube just had for everybody. Because I know at first I couldn't hide my camera, but it's just because for lighting reasons. My lighting ain't good where I'm at, so. But yeah, I'm on my community wall. You can see if you really see what I look like. Go to my community wall, watch any of my old shows, so it ain't because I'm trying to hide anything. But thank you guys, man. Like I said, more gaming content this week, especially Marathon. We're gonna start putting out videos on that. Focus back on Resident Evil, Requiem, and God of War, Sons of Sparta. We're gonna start focusing on those two things. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for the support. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you liked it. We're exactly an hour in, so that's how we're going to go out of here. I'm Troy West saying thank you so much. You just watched episode 323 of the Solid Sports Video Blog. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Glenn Jones, for coming through last week. He made the show last week. We had a good show last week. Hopefully he's doing well. Maybe he's busy today. Like I said, I think last week I was on Wednesday, so everybody got scheduled. My schedule, like I said, my schedule changes like the wind. So, like I said, but next week I'm gonna target maybe like Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday show later in the week, so we'll have a lot more to talk about. And thank you guys. I appreciate you guys so much for your patience. Appreciate you guys for being here. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Like I said, check out my community wall for more. Check out the rest of my content, my gaming content as well. And thank you guys. I'll see you guys next week. Peace and love. I'm going to try to do a night stream soon. Like I said, I always said that I might just have to do one during the daytime. What's tomorrow? Wednesday. I might go live tomorrow with Marathon. I might go live with Marathon tomorrow. Depending on how my day is tomorrow, I might go live with that for a little while, for at least an hour or so for you guys. So if not, then I'll see you next week. Peace and love, guys. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you for subscribing and commenting, and I'll see you guys in the next show. Peace and love.